Welcome to Murphy's Medicine, Weekend Extra. Hosted by Dr. Stephen A.R. Murphy. We'll talk men's health, longevity, mental focus, and the importance of being a good dad. Now, let the conversation begin. Here's your host, Dr. Murphy.
What is up? It's the Weekend Extra. That's right. You're here for the Weekend Extra, Murphy's Medicine. Thank you so much for tuning in today, my tribe and my clan. What is going on? What is going on? Well, let me tell you what's going on. You may have just been hit with Murphy's Law. That's right. Murphy's Law is, put simply, what can go wrong will go wrong. And Murphy's corollary is often at the worst possible moment. And how do you treat that? What do you do when you're a victim and you've been diagnosed? To speak about victims, we'll do that later. And you have the diagnosis of Murphy's Law. Well, there's only one treatment. That treatment is your dose of Murphy's Medicine. So thank you so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate you tuning in and taking your dose. So here we are today. That's right. March 3rd, 2023. We are in the third month or the first quarter of the year. What have you done? Have you been able to adhere to your New Year's resolutions? Have you been able to see things more clearly? Have you been able to keep a clearer head? Have you been able to exercise? Have you been able to eat better? Have you maybe been able to cut down on that coffee intake of yours? Well, I can tell you right now, I haven't done very well at any of those things, but I keep trying every day because every day is a new day. That's right. And so one of the things I want to talk about today during our brief time together, because remember, at the weekend, you're getting ready. You are headed to work for the last day of the week, unless you work on weekends. If you're someone who's on call this weekend, a physician, an EMT, an ultrasonographer, a police officer, or anyone else who still has to work on the weekends, I feel for you. I've been there. I did that for decades. I appreciate you. Thank you. So I want to talk a little bit today about negativity bias. I want to talk a little bit about negativity bias. And this is one of the cognitive biases where we anticipate or we really give weight more to and use negative information far more often than we do positive information. Right. So we carry negative with us from childhood. It's that powerful. Negative speech, negative guidance. Be careful what you say to others because guess what? That'll stick with them the rest of their lives. And that's one of the things you really, if you're a parent, what makes a good parent, I'm going to tell you right now. They say the whole negative sandwich realistic thing where you give a positive and a negative and a positive again. It's an old school kind of management style, also a parenting style. I think that that's a reasonable way to do it, but I think there may even be a better way to do it. And we're going to talk about it today, so take a listen. But first, before I get going, I want to talk a little bit about a quote from Marcus Aurelius. For those of you that don't know, Marcus Aurelius was one of the great emperors of Rome, this co-emperor actually of Rome. And one of the things that he did was he studied, he learned, he listened to a lot of great philosophers, and he wrote their information down. He wrote their information down in a series of journals called Meditations. Now, Meditations is great, and so today I'm going to quote from it for you, if you're ready. You shouldn't give circumstances the power to rouse anger, for they don't care at all. All right, so what does that mean? I want you guys to go into that a little bit. You shouldn't give circumstances the power to rouse anger. Well, what's rousing anger? Rousing anger is building it up inside of you, letting it kind of build up. I'm going to give you an example, right? So I was driving down to New York City. Everyone knows if you drive down to New York City, that in itself is an opportunity to rouse anger. But I had forgotten important paperwork that I needed. I had just printed it out in the office, and I ran down to New York City and I forgot it. I forgot the paperwork. And as I get going down on the road about, a quarter of the way there, I recognize that I'm going to be late for my appointment. And then secondly, I recognize that I forgot the paperwork on the printer. Forgot the paperwork on the printer. What do you do? Well, you can't go turn back around. Why? Because you'll be even more late for the appointment and you may not be able to keep that appointment. So you get mad. Damn, idiot. And wow, you hit the steering wheel. Okay. Did that help anyone? Did that get your paperwork back? Did you get your paperwork in time? Did that get you to the appointment in time? It didn't do any of those things. All that it did was discharge anger and maybe hurt your hand on your steering wheel, depending on how soft your steering wheel is. It didn't help anyone. And imagine if you had a kid in the car at the time. Like, what do you think the kid is going to say? Oh my God, my parent's going to beat me. Yeah. Many times in my younger life did I give in to anger, and now all that I recognize is that the damage that it caused, right? The damage that it caused to friends, the damage it caused to myself, the damage it caused to relationships. You shouldn't give circumstances the power to rouse anger, for they don't care at all. They don't care. Circumstances can't care. They have no desire to care. It is the selfish man who believes that they do. It is the fool who believes that the gods choose to intervene and torture you. Circumstances do not care about your feelings. There's nothing you can achieve from it. There's nothing you can hope to achieve from that moment of anger, that moment of rage. And in fact, you really think about it, and I'm going back into this again, right? It's like a negativity bias. We now have been presented with a piece of information that could be theoretically posed as negative, right? Let's walk through my circumstance, my example. The paperwork I needed for my important meeting was left on my printer. What could I do? Well, if you're angry, you can't think clearly. So immediately I recognized it was anger, and I said to myself, okay, calm down, get rid of the anger, just let it go. And the moment that anger slipped from my mind, I recognized that I had saved a file and emailed it to myself, right? I said, oh, hey, I've got this on email. I got it on email. Okay, perfect. Pull over, right? Because pull over, guys. Trust me, you don't want to get in a car crash. Ladies, too, if you're listening here, don't get in a car crash. Pull over. Pull over, check the email account, identify the information, make sure it's the same, make sure it looks good. Oh, I have the emails of the parties that I need to send this to. Oh, done. Send an email, send the paperwork, forward along, say, hey, listen, I didn't want to clutter your office with paper, so here it is in digital form. See you at the meeting. Oh, and I may be a couple minutes late because traffic looks horrible. Now you've set everyone's expectations. You've delivered a digital file, and you were able to overcome your anger and instead turn it to a positive rather than a negative. And well, what does it mean, negative and positive? Well, the answer is I viewed it as a negative, but it's actually a good opportunity. It was a good positive. And because I was able to tell them that it might be a couple minutes late, I also set the expectation so that way they could go about with their work and not be angry if I was a few minutes late. They could build that into their schedule. How long? Well, I was in Westchester County, so yeah, at least an hour. They got a heads up 45-minute hour notice, right? I was downtown. So 45-minute notice that I was going to be a couple minutes late. And this just worked out really well. Meeting worked out really well. Everything worked out well. Why? Because we used the circumstances to our advantage. But it didn't mean I didn't get angry at first. I did. I got really angry at myself. I think that's a problem that a lot of us have, especially, and it's not just doctors. I'll tell you, I think it's perfectionists or people who expect the best out of themselves at all times and don't give themselves some measure of room for wiggle room, And I think that's a problem. It's a problem. It leads to running to redlining, right? I don't know if you guys know what redlining is, right? The redlining is this whole thing where you run your race car where it pegs, right? So you have these little dials on your cars back in the day. they were little dials, and now they're digital dials. But you'll have the revolution, the RPMs of your motor vehicle. When you run them too much, when they rotate too fast, the RPMs go up, revolutions per minute. And when that goes up too high, there's a line there that's a red line, and it says, hey, you're running too fast. You can't do this for very long. I think we all need to recognize that today. Are you redlining? Are you pushing yourself too hard? Are you taking circumstances and allowing them to rouse anger? And are you letting negative information sit with you? Negative information is just information. And if our mind decides to turn it negative, we need to examine it and look for the opportunities to turn it to a positive. So today, I give you the dose of Murphy's medicine. Let go of anger. Think of all the negative things that you've had in your life. Recognize that they were not negatives. They were just circumstances. Don't let them rouse anger. And in fact, I'm going to tell you, you want to go one step further? Look at them again and say, how can I turn this into a positive? Take the opportunity. Turn the negative into a positive. And what I mean by positive, I mean the opportunity to do better, to get stronger, to be braver, to be wiser, to do the best you can for yourself, your family, and mankind. All right? I'm going to let you guys go. It's a busy weekend. Remember this. You shouldn't give circumstances the power to rouse anger, for they don't care at all. Forget it. Circumstances can't care, and they're not here to torture you. So don't let them have the power to rouse anger in your mind. All right, that's it, guys. I can't wait to show you this month's list of podcast entrants. We have some great interviews. We're going to go over addiction. We're going to talk about men's health, and we're going to talk about the future of medicine. You know, I really appreciated my time with Alex Meshigan recently on the podcast, and we're exploring actually a collaboration of maybe doing our own podcast together. So that's right, guys. We appreciate it. If you want to join the tribe, you can join us at the website, murphymedicine.com. Check us out on Spotify and iTunes and Google Podcasts and Amazon Podcasts and everywhere else. And please leave a comment. Ask a question. We want to know more about our tribe. So I hope you have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to Murphy's Medicine with Dr. Stephen A.R. Murphy. Got a question for the doctor? Email us at doc@murphysmedicine.com. And for more information on this podcast, visit our website at murphysmedicine.com. Be sure to follow us on all social media at Murphy's Medicine. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review us. And tell your friends they too can start planning for Murphy's Law by listening to Murphy's Medicine. Thanks again for listening.
We can all do something, right?
Yeah, and if we had more and more Murphys out there, the world would be a better place.